Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Shashi Bellamkonda. Welcome to the Talking Headless show on the Players Production Network. This show was started by Paul Greenberg basically to give more visibility to the community of analyst relations and technology analysts and learn from each other. So today I have two wonderful guests with me on the show. Delia Vulpe is an analyst relations manager at SBS. She's built a wonderful career of over 15 years in the financial services and technology, a lot of top brand companies, Society General, BNY Mellon. She also founded Reputation ID. We'll be very curious to ask her more about that. Today she works at the intersection of analyst relations, influence, and thought leadership, connecting innovation, market perception, and strategic storytelling. And in fact, in the fintech space, which I think is very good, I've also seen her contributing to the analyst relations industry through her posts, articles, and she's also been recognized by Thinkers 360. Of course, I will ask her to introduce herself. I'm sure I didn't do such a good job with that. Sheila, who I've met in person, we have crossed paths at some of the conferences. I'm really happy to have her on as well. Sheila McGee-Smith, she's the founder and principal analyst at McGee-Smith Analytics. It's a communications industry analyst and strategic. She's a strategic consultant focused on customer experience, EX, and the AI markets. You must all follow both of these people. Very interesting, and you'll find it more as useful as I've found them. Her insight, usually helps a lot of enterprises and solution providers develop strategies to meet demands of today's consumer and business consumers. I know she speaks regularly at Enterprise Connect as well as a lot of North American and European industry events. We will very much like to get her views on CX and AI markets, analytical relations, and everything else. With that, I'm going to bring up Delia first, and after we finish the first segment, we'll have Sheila coming up. After that, we'll have both of them to give their final thoughts. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Delia to the stage.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi, Shashi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, and really wonderful having you on the show. I know we've been connected on LinkedIn for some time, so really
Yes.
happy to have this as well. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and along with that, answer this question that I have is, how did you get to the analyst relations space?
Yes, thank you again for inviting me. I really appreciate the way you are contributing to the AR community yourself. I have a lot of admiration for that. If I'm looking at my career to date and how I got into AR, I can start by saying that it was by mistake. I did not plan to do it. I did not know much about AR before I joined. And from my conversations with other peers, I can tell you that I'm not the only one. So I think it's a treat in people to maybe be like I am new to this field. My career to date started in banking. I started actually today. Well, this year I'm celebrating 20 years of experience. I work for, as you said, for big banks in retail and in financial services in general. And throughout my career to date, I did understand exactly how to use that power, to build power or to use that influence, not necessarily by asking or studying, but more about by doing and seeing how I need to position myself for success. So it was a very long journey to understand that you have to position yourself with intention so that you are successful. So I really believe in that. And if I was to look at how I got into the AR, it was purely by mistake. I was looking for a job. I actually started a company, which is, you said that if you want, we can talk about it a little bit. But the company was based on how to build your personal brand. So it's all about how you position yourself so that people respect you, they understand you, you create your voice in the field that you're in. So that was the whole reputation idea as a company. I did fail, so it's not working very well in the company, but I learned my lessons, and I think that that was a very good foundation for the AI role, AR, because it's all about how you position, how you build relationships, and how you take care of a reputation or build a reputation for a company. So that's a shortcut to where I am today from where I started.
I mean, I love your answer. You're also saying that it wasn't successful. And I think before the show, we were just talking about like nobody should strive to be like 100% perfect.
Yes.
And sometimes when there are failures, we share and get the lessons learned. I want to say hi to Carter Lusher joining us from Portland, Oregon. Hey, Carter, thank you for joining us. To everybody else, please put your comments or questions and join, and we of course will answer them. So you've been in the AR space. Like, what have you seen change in the past few years, especially with AI coming in, other new technologies coming in, sometimes making it easier for AR people to manage their workflow? What have you seen?
So I'm quite new to the space. I've been around for just over a year, so it's still new to me. I'm still learning, but I can tell you that from an AI point of view, and I think that everyone will agree, it helps us be more efficient with what we do and to focus our attention to the things that really matter. In the AR space will be relationships, how to connect with an analyst, how to make sure that the message that you're sending is aligned to the company that you work for. And I think that the challenge is more about how fast, at least from my point of view, can you embrace it? How fast can you use it? And I'm going to tell you why, because and I think that everyone in AR would say the same. We always say it's too much work for one person or for two people. The workload is really too much at some point. So I think AI and technology can be used to kind of automate things that you don't have to do on a daily basis and to extract the data that you need so that you make better decisions and to use your time better with connecting with analysts or the research that you're doing and so on.
That's true. I think I've heard that from a lot of AR professionals. I think the biggest thing is setting up one-on-one schedules between analysts and executives, especially if you have a large group of analysts. That's true. Yeah, I mean, fintech is a very interesting space. So talk to us about how you've been able to get executive buy-in for the analyst relations program, and what is your advice to others who may be just starting in a new organization, the new analyst relations program? What advice would you give them?
So I am very lucky because the company that I work for is very open to analysts. I advocate a lot for analysts internally and the value that analysts are bringing to the table. And my luck is that our CPO, he used to be a Gartner analyst. So for me to get my point out there is not as hard as him not being there. I think that I have an ally in the XCOM just because of that. But if I was to look at advice on how do I get my ideas or how do I get an okay, I work very well to build relationships with general managers for all the products. I'm recommending everyone. I'm building this relationship for everyone in the company. It's not just for marketing. It's not just for the XCOM. It's really for the product as well. So my advice would be something that I follow is really about building those relationships internally as well and add value to them by promoting their work and being, the advocate for both sides, really.
No, that's really good. I think a little bit about your work in Reputation ID, right?
Yes.
You already gave a few tips for people on being very specific. I'm forgetting the exact words that you used.
Intentional. Yes.
Yes, intentional, right? So, what advice do you have for other professionals to build sustainable influence and thought leadership today?
Yes, so based on my experience, I've learned through the hard times how important it is to make yourself visible to the world that you work in. So that can be your manager, the company, external as well. You never know what happens. So building relationships shouldn't be just, one path, should be everywhere. And the reputation ID was built for ambitious professionals to know how to represent themselves and to have that voice and talk to others about themselves, about their experience. Because sometimes when you have the experience, you're the only one who walked through those steps of the experience. No one else knows your story better than you do. So I think my advice for people in general, regardless or the industry they work in, try to find that voice that you have. Try to find that skill that you have, that you can put it to stratosphere by developing it and working that muscle, and make sure that you stand up for yourself and you tell people about your experiences as well. Because if you move, and this is really critical, if you move jobs, let's say, Shashi, that we worked together in the same company for 10 years, you may remember our wins together because we worked together. But if tomorrow I'm moving to Carter's business as an example, he's not going to know everything that we built together. So I would be the only person who can tell people about my experience by voicing it. So that's really very powerful when you think about how you build your personal brand. You have to look at all your experience and be the person who talks for yourself.
I think I like this a lot, but I think I'm going to ask you a follow up, because there are some people, and we'll ask Sheila also when she comes on. I think personal brand is not a selfish thing. Like people say, like, oh, this person is building up their personal brand. I actually spoke about it at a recent Infotech conference where I was saying now it's a requirement because it's become a form of communication. Like
Yes.
analyst professionals like yourself, I find them on LinkedIn. Carter is a very good example of that. Sheila is a very good example of, I think I get a lot of news from my LinkedIn feed because people are always talking about it. So, how would you tell people to be a little bit more comfortable with communicating using that as a channel, not necessarily as one way or two way? I mean, this whole show is going to be is on LinkedIn Live, right?
Yeah.
And people come back and watch it. How should analyst relations professionals, if they're not doing it today, what is a good beginning? Like post about the company, about themselves. I like the moving jobs part of it too, because if you build up enough of a relationship with analysts, even
Yeah.
if you move jobs, you still have that value and the relationships with them.
Yeah.
How
You
do
don't
you think about that?
Yeah, you don't lose it. Yes, I think it's mandatory. As you said, it's not something that you can skip today to build a personal brand. And my advice is that, look at yourself and see how you are. If you are chatty, try to find opportunities for you to chat with people and to tell about you. If you like to write, write about it. Now you have AI that can help you to write better, or even start liking, or even if you don't feel, we have people who are not comfortable to be visible for even their own company that they work for, do a message, send a message to someone saying, listen, I'm very interested in this. But I think that the first step that I would do would be to master what I'm good at, and then find people who are in my community, because it's easier for them to promote what you're saying if they kind of work in the same industry and on the same topic and in the same community. So I would say find people like you that will help you get out of the shelf and try to build that those relationships that will fight for you when you're not there. So that's something that I would say for people who are not comfortable to post on LinkedIn. It's not for everyone. You can just you comment, use messages to or try to find what is specific to you, what's authentic to you, to you know be out there. But be out there, don't stay in your shell.
Yeah, that's perfect advice. Now, specifically for fintech, how's analyst relations in fintech? What are some things people should consider if they are in that space? How do people find value, and how do you find analysts who cover the fintech space?
Yes, so in my role, because I work for a software company, we provide software for financial institutions. What I found that really adds value is that connection with the analysts, advocating for them internally, getting people to want to talk to analysts to share what they struggle with. That was something very important. And I remember that in the beginning, I would ask analysts, what do you want me? How can I help you? How can I support you? Because it's my role. I am the connection link, and I want to be there for you as well as for the company. So one of the things that came back to me from these feedbacks that I got with analysts was respond quickly. Don't wait for 2 months to respond to an inquiry or a question that they have, and be proactive. Don't wait for them to come to you. That's something that I do in my work. I am looking at your planned calendar to see what you're going to do in 5 months. I'm looking internally to see, can I give you a case study? Can I help you somehow so that I make your life easier as well? But I also promote my company as I go through it. And that trust and conversation with analysts is really powerful because they understand that I am the connector to the company, and they want to understand the company better because that's how they can compare vendors in my example, and that's how they add value themselves to their audience.
That's true. Uh, Internally, how are you able to connect, the feedback from that you receive from analysts, and does it drive internal discussions and feedback, or does it drive any change? Is How is that working there?
Yes. So on our side, as I said, I am advocated for analysts. We're sharing them internally through different channels of communications. It can be on Viva Engage, like an internal social media, if you want. It can be through an email. It can be through a conversation. But it's always there. So it's always sharing that because. For instance, if we're doing a briefing with you and we present you with our product, I am interested to know what questions you asked because that can be valuable for the product team to say, we didn't consider this, or yes, you validate our step. If you're asking that question, maybe it's not very clear for us why you have to ask the question. So maybe we have to look at the message. So in my view, I think adding the value and try to connect the dots and see how people are understanding analyst relations as well is really crucial. Sometimes all I can have to do is to share a report or something that someone wrote because we have experts in our field that they already know analysts. So it's not always educational internally, but it's more about here is a report. Here is what we can do. Let's go and talk to the analyst. So it's that relationship that we built internally is really powerful because now everyone adds to it.
That's true. There's a lot of content, a lot of noise there. What are some of your storytelling tactics or secrets that you use to give the message to both the industry, the analysts, and who do you report to? You said CPO, is that correct?
No, I don't report to the CPO. I report to the partnerships manager. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's the whole ecosystem. What was the question again?
Now, how do you ensure
Hi.
that you're telling a story that is, rises above all the noise that's created? Right?
Yes. So I think one of the things that we do is I check with analysts. I check the messaging. I ask for advice. What is this clear enough? What are others doing? It's just more about asking the right question or just showing that, I'm intending to do this. Can you help me define it better? It's something that works. And, analysts, one of the things that they do is advisory. So sometimes it's all about asking the question on how they can help you with the messaging. And then you use the message outside, when you want to do that. But in terms of messaging and to stand out is more about how you build that question that gets the analyst to work for you to make sure that they give you the answer to it. So that's the way I would put it.
That's perfect. Now, you're a one-person team in analyst relations, right?
One and
How
a
do
half.
you
An intern.
how do you manage this? Like, I think in my interactions, like there are large teams, larger organizations. So, what are your priorities as a one-person team?
Yes, so I am actually very lucky that I have an intern. So I have someone who helps me. But
You
I
should
think
give her a shout out if she is listening.
yes, Rania. Hi, Rania. She is listening. Yes, I am very lucky to have her to help me with my daily job because, as I said, all the AR professionals would say that it's just too much. So I am embracing all the AI and all the automation so that I can really, really focus on what's important and what I can do with my time. And I also have a lot of help from other departments as well. I was just discussing with someone today, and she was helping me to kind of define why this is important. So sometimes connecting internally and asking people to help you is going to open those doors that are closed.
That's true. No, that's really great. So I'm going to bring up Sheila next. So have a drink of water, and we'll come back again for a joint final words. Thank you very much, Delia. Very exciting to hear from you. So that was really very energetic. I got a lot out of it. I hope everybody in the audience got out of it. Please post your questions, comments, and let's keep this interactive. If you're watching this video after the show is over, you can still comment and there. With that, I'm going to bring up Sheila McGee to the stage. Hey, Sheila, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing, Shashi?
Very good. No, thank you so much for being here. And I'm looking forward to a very engaging conversation, just like the one we had with Delia just now. Let's start off with introduce yourself and also tell us all about your journey to becoming a technology analyst.
Absolutely. So I always open by saying that I have been an industry analyst covering the contact center space for now 36 years. Right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I mean, continuously in this space, never veered, never chased some other technology area. And so started this in 1990. So what was that path that got me there in 1990? So I started my career at AT&T, my technology career.
Mm-hmm.
So right out of business school, we're talking about pre-divestiture, before AT&T was broken up. So I joined in 1981, and it was a time when they realized that they needed people who could be business consultants in addition to just selling dial tone or products. So they aggressively went out and started recruiting in business schools. So I spent a year as a systems consultant, right? Actually configuring systems, learning how to price systems, doing, station reviews, right? I don't even know if they do those anymore. Actually walking the location, the floor of the location, and figuring out, okay, so I was in the retail sector. So I had a national account. Lord & Taylor was my account. And the very first system that I worked on was the Fifth Avenue store of Lord & Taylor. So think about this. 39th Street and Fifth Avenue, 1,000 stations, 1,000 phones, all on Centrex. And we're going to move it to a PBX. Who gets what phone? Who picks up? Does bridal pick up the phone for lingerie? But certainly men's accessories is not going to pick up the phone for lingerie. So how do you design pickup groups? So really learned at a very, sort of grassroots level, the business of telephone systems, right? And even to the point of when we turned over configurations to engineering in Western Electric, it was paper forms. Like this was pre-personal computers. Actually, quick funny story. I remember once after hours typing up something for a customer, and the next day being reported by the union for doing union work, because that was not, yeah. So it's like, okay, don't do that again. Don't take away union work. But we did not even have personal computers at that point. So did that for a year, and then realized, wait a minute, account executives make a whole lot more money doing this. So my account executive that I'd been working with and paired with got promoted to national account manager. And so the customer was asked, well, what kind of person do you want as your AE? And he said, well, we'll take Sheila. We like to talk to her, but she also got the answers. She's not just somebody who's going to go find the answer from somebody else. So I spent a year as an account executive and had a lot of fun. Lord & Taylor had 40 locations in great cities, Atlanta and Washington. I remember there were 4 Lord & Taylors in Boston. So traveling all around and selling phone systems. And then AT&T broke up. And so my account national account manager went to the dial tone side, and I went to help manage the account on the hardware side. And it was just a very difficult time to be at AT&T and to be in sales, because the way I put it is we could sell it, but we couldn't get it shipped. We couldn't get it installed. I mean, all the processes were broken. So I sort of raised my hand and said, have MBA bring me in from the cold. And I moved to headquarters in market research. So 2 years in the field, working with customers, technology, sales. And then I moved to market research for 5 years at AT&T headquarters. And we had a lot of research to do. There was a lot of things to do about naming and how we would sell our products, and how teams would be put together and what customers thought about us. I spent probably 4 of those years doing focus groups all over the country with AT&T customers. It was a great way to learn what customers want and how you translate that into how does that impact product management? How does that impact marketing, right? It was so my internal clients were product marketing and product management. So I was like that interface with market research. So 5 years doing that. And then I got married, turned out, to my national account manager. And I always say this, we did that in those days. We could actually meet people at work and marry them. It's a slightly different world now. And people are unable to do that. So sorry for people who can't, but it worked for me. Still married to him. So almost 40 years later. But he was a sales exec. And one day he came home and he said, good news, I got promoted. We are moving to Dallas. Okay, we're moving to Dallas. Okay, we lived in New Jersey, right around AT&T headquarters locations. So long story short, over the next 20 years, we had 12 homes, because, as an AT&T sales exec, you moved around a lot. You moved for where the account was. You went back to headquarters to do a product marketing or product management job to sort of get that infusion of headquarters knowledge and updates. And that's when I transitioned to analyst. Okay. So in 1990, as we're moving around, and the job that I have at the time, wasn't remote, right? In those days, you couldn't take the job remote. And I heard of somebody who was putting together an analyst firm in New Jersey, built around sort of all the business that AT&T created, right? There was a lot of, market research that got created out of AT&T. And so I joined an analyst firm. It was called the Polaris Group. One of the other analysts in that firm was Blair Pleasant, who has been interviewed on this show.
Previous guest on the show.
Absolutely. So at the time, I was doing call center and she was doing voice, sort of voice messaging. voicemail was a big topic. It was a topic in and of itself, right? And then over time, she picked up CTI, and I picked up some operator services. But after 10 years, we both left that firm. And the reason we left that firm is there was a transition happening, and the transition came about because of the internet. So for the 10 years, she and I spent 3, 4, 5 months a year writing a report about a topic. So my first report was called ACDs in the 90s, right? So it was 300 plus pages. That was one of the core selling propositions. Yep. And that's what we called them internally. I remember somebody coming to my home once and saying, so I understand you write books, right? Because that's the way my husband sort of explained. She's writing a book about, right? But in those days, you didn't have an internet to go to, right? We did things like go to trade shows to get data sheets and then translate that into a document that somebody could read. We also did market share. So that was going out to all of the vendors, just like firms do today. Market projections based on interviews with both customers and with vendors. So did that for 10 years. Did market share and vendor projections. And then left and became an independent. Why? Because the Polaris Group did not transition well to the internet world. The role of the analyst was changing. We weren't just there to sort of read, digest, and translate for buyers content. There was more of a need for bringing expertise, bringing knowledge. That's what analysts really were offering to vendors, not data sheets, right? And as I said, it was not a transition the Polaris Group made well. So Blair went out on her own. I went out on my own, and been doing that now since 2000. So 26 years now as an independent, right? So that's my path to analyst and my path to independent analyst.
It's very fascinating, and I think you're kind of an OG in that space. Like I like to say, like I came into technology when domain names started, but everything that you said is way beyond that. I remember my first phone call from India was to the BBC in Bush House, London, because that was the only international phone number I had.
Yep.
All those are good memories to have. So how's it working out as an independent analyst? What are things that companies should do to gain your attention or to build a relationship with you, especially the analyst relations folks?
So those are kind of different things. So first, what is the role of an independent analyst? And I think in the telecom space, or what was originally the telecom space and now is sort of the communications software space, there has grown a unique group of independent analysts. I think in other fields, maybe, in FinServ, for example, they're not quite as many independent analysts. So I do have a fairly unique perspective that's based on being in the space that I'm in. And it's interesting when I talk to AR professionals who worked, for example, with contact center analysts. We are a community. We know each other. We like each other. We share, as you know, we're a tight community and we like each other. And other, AR people who go to other spaces, and I don't want to name names of the spaces, but they're like, wow, it's not the same. It's just, you just don't have the same level of camaraderie and whatever. So I feel myself very lucky to be in that space, right? The other part of that is that the vendors in our space have learned the value of independent analysts, that there's different roles that an independent analyst can play, that somebody who works for like one of the big four, right? Think of Gartner and Forrester and IDC and maybe Informa or whoever. I don't want to leave anybody out. But they have a different role for companies, I think. One of them is how honest, I think, or that, and I'm just going to personalize it, how honest I can be when I talk to a vendor about what I think versus somebody who lives within the structure of Gartner or Forrester. I just don't feel like they're in a position to be as blunt, right? As direct about things that an independent can, right? And I think part of that is because of just the structure of the reports that come out of those houses, right? They have so much impact, the Magic Quadrants, the Forrester Waves, that they have to be much more controlled in the way they react to what they see, into what they say. And so while they can be helpful and useful, there's a different value that somebody like me can bring. So I think that's the difference in the role, right? So how does somebody get my attention? Okay. And you sent me some notes and said, what are the top 3 ways to work with me? Number 1, be prepared. When you ask me for a briefing, or if I ask you for a briefing, come to the table with not just some people to talk. I am looking for organized information. I am looking for you to tell me who your company is, all of the demographics, presentation on product. I'm looking for you to bring not just marketing, but product and marketing people to the table, right? I'm a fairly technical analyst. I don't want to hear your product story from a marketing person. And it may be because I came out of a technical part of the business, but I need somebody who can answer questions, right? Just like a systems consultant can answer the questions better than an AE, I want somebody who can answer the questions. And then the other thing that would seem simple is read a couple of my articles, right? So the place where my work is publicly available is on No Jitter. So sometimes, 2-3 times a month, I am putting out information about something that's happened in the market, some trend that is happening. And if I get on the phone with somebody and they have never read anything I have written, to me, that's a red flag. It's like, why are we on this call? What do you think that you're going to get out of this? So those are the 3 things. It's interesting. You were talking about how AI comes into our work. There is a gentleman, Chris Crosby, who you may have seen. He's fairly active on LinkedIn. He's the founder of a company called Catalyst. And a few years back, at the beginning of the generative AI wave, he put out on LinkedIn, what is the best way for me to present my product to Sheila McGee-Smith? Something to that effect. And sort of using the tools that are available to say, okay, go out there, figure out what it is she does, who she is, and what's the best way for me to tell her my story. Okay. To me, that's a good way to use AI. There was another technology executive who I won't name, who I went to a meeting and he put up on a slide, can Sheila McGee-Smith be replaced by ChatGPT? Okay. So that's not a good way to work with an analyst, right? But it does come to that question. What does AI mean to this role, right? It's just like there was that transition from me writing reports that were based on data sheets.
Yep.
And then the internet did away with that. Well, there's a certain part of what we do that now can be done by some of the generative tools. So you have to figure out what it is that you bring that's valuable. And when I think about what I bring, one of the things that I bring is that 35 years doing the same exact thing, right? The history of this business. And ChatGPT can't know because I'm pre-internet, right? And there obviously are lessons that can be learned, right? And, when we think about some of the vendors, right? Think about Avaya, right? Avaya came from Lucent, came from AT&T. Some of the things that are true about Avaya today are because of who they were when I worked for them in the 80s, right? So it's an interesting, sort of path that's been taken. And some of the customers who use Avaya are the same kind of customers I sold to, right? And so there's bridges that can be built that generative AI just can't do. Wasn't around then.
That's true. I think one common thread that I get from this is you've been a lifelong learner. So no matter where the technology changed, like you kept track of it. Looking ahead, what are you thinking about, especially in terms of the analyst and analyst relations, the relationships going? I'll explain my question a little bit. Like buyer behavior has also changed. AI tools actually use a lot of material from independent people who are publishing it. So how are you seeing that impact on, like, do you get people saying like, hey, I saw your no jitter article, explain to me about what you meant by company X or Y? How do analysts fit into that buyer journey in the future?
So I think part of what you're asking is how does analyst relations change, right? How should they be thinking about how they use analysts, right? And I did think about this, and I think one of the ways that some companies think about using analysts is really as influencers, okay? And there's certainly that role that some of us play, not all, right? Some of us play as influencers. But I think if a company looks at an analyst, especially an independent, as only an opportunity to get influence, right? To get reach, then they're missing the boat, right? Then they're missing an opportunity. And I think the opportunity that's being missed is to have an outside-in view to what they're trying to do, right? It's amazing. Like I do strategy days, like a lot of the analyst firms do. And very often what I hear is, we should have brought somebody like you in sooner. We should have had outside eyes on our plans before we had gone too far down a path. So I think the role of analyst relations is to help the internal tools, the internal people understand the value. What's the value? And obviously it's not just about me, it's about bringing in somebody who can take that look. And that person, like me, has a view of the entire market, right? I have a view not just of other CCaaS vendors. I have a view of the CRM vendors. I have a view of the conversational AI vendors, the WEM vendors. And people who are every day just trying to get their own product out the door don't have the time to really take the time to understand what's happening everywhere. And I think we have the luxury. That's what we get paid to do every day, is really stay on top of everything that's changing. And so I think the role of the AR managers is to make sure that they understand the different roles that analysts can play, not just as influencers, not just as people to influence to get a position, a dot, or on a quadrant or a place on a wave, but to actually help internal teams, product teams, and marketing teams to do their jobs better.
Very nice. Before I bring in Delia for a few last words final thoughts from both of you on this topic, I wanted to ask you one question about, this is still a very relationship game. Like Delia was saying, we may be in contact because we are in company X versus Y, but that keeps going. And you also mentioned that the whole CX analyst community is also very closely knit. What are some experiences that you thought were really out of the box and really delighted you? Any instances or examples where the AR went out of the way and did something that said like, wow, this is really great? I know we didn't discuss this question.
No, it's fine. I guess what I'm thinking in terms of relationships is, I have always tracked the people in addition to the technology, because I think what I know about the people running a business can be as important as the products that they're putting out into the marketplace, the transitions that have happened, who've been brought in, who has left, where they are in terms of leadership transitions, what those transitions mean, right? And so to your point about relationships, being able to talk to either an enterprise or, a vendor who's competing with somebody and give them that view of, this is a company on fire. They did this 2 years ago. Actually, a great example is Finn, right? They did this massive transition 2 years ago that led to acquisition by Salesforce, because there was just a leadership change, a product pivot, successful one. And it's understanding those things that are happening as they go that I think is just as important. And again, something that AI can't do. It won't give you that sense of, is this new executive going to be successful? What's the probability? Or what's the probability that this firm that's pivoting into this product area really has the people to make it happen? So I think that's a big part of it.
That's true. That's really good. Really wonderful having, a very international audience, I would say. So I'm going to bring Delia back on stage here. Hi, Delia. What do you think hearing Sheila? And Sheila, what do you think hearing Delia?
It was amazing, really. Your experience to date is just outstanding. Really nice to hear it. Thank you for sharing that with us. And for the advices on the analyst relations as well. It's really powerful what you say. And I agree with you. And I actually use this in my talks. I say, if you read Harry Potter, I'm going to talk to you about Harry Potter because that's your niche, that's your coverage, right? So as you say, if someone doesn't read my article that I'm talking about this topic, right, how can they understand me and how can I bring that value, or how are they bringing value to the table? So thank you so much for those advice. It was just really, really eye-opening. Thank you.
No, thank you. Because you're right. I mean, I could have a conversation with a company who reaches out to me, right, that has a very broad portfolio, and maybe CX is just one part of it. Well, during that conversation, I'm going to want to understand what role the CX plays in that company's entire play. That's what I know the most about, and that's what I can be the most helpful about. So if you start telling me this very broad story, then you're missing an opportunity.
There's one takeaway from both of you that I'm thinking of, my job at Infotech too. Like sometimes when we have briefings, I think we should also send a different kind of bio of analysts who will be on the briefing, so maybe a little proactive. So those are really excellent tips. Now, between both of you, right, like Delia, give us an experience of, a good outreach to analysts that has worked, that you thought was really good. And on the other side of the table, Sheila can share like some really unusual way of meeting or an outreach from an analyst relations firm. So you go first, Delia.
I just want to let you know that I have some noisy neighbors, so I really hope that they're not going to disturb. On my side, what I can say is that being proactive was really what made a change with an analyst. Because if I'm looking at Sheila's calendar and I know that she's talking about this for the next 6 months, that's a trend for me. I can identify what is important for Sheila. So then I can reach out to internally to find the connectors, and then I can reach out to Sheila, say, we want to contribute to that. We have a story to tell. Do you have the time to talk to us? So in my experience, that's something that I really found that brings value to the analysts, because you are helping them with whatever they're doing research on. So that's, in my view, that's something that was very well received.
You know what? That's a very good point, Delia. When I think about, how does somebody get me to do an article for them, right, about what they're doing? And it's coming to me and understanding what I've been writing about, what that path is, and how your message or your solution fits into that fabric. So that's a very nice takeaway. That's a nice takeaway. Do a little bit of research. If you come at me, obviously I get pitches all the time and they're out of left field. They don't make sense. And so then you stop listening and you stop, reading those AR things.
Very good. This is interesting. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question for you, actually. So thank you so much for this. Really, I really like the experience. In terms of you being an analyst yourself and going to so many conferences and being connected with the AR community so much, I want to ask you, what is it that you see outstanding? What is extraordinary that you see in people like me, like the connector between the company that you the product and the person who helps you get to the right person internally, to the right SME. So the thing is more about what is it that really brings value to someone in my shoes for you?
A great question, and Sheila also should. But I have some thoughts on this. So the first one is when you build a relationship, it should be an ongoing one. Meaning, it's not like, hey, we have an analyst day, we are done, see you next year. That's one. The second thing is also, it's probably connected to this, is being able to respond quickly to a question. Like sometimes I'll get a question that I have not heard of, and I don't know which vendor can serve that person. So I'll ask a question, and sometimes people are very quick. They'll tell me here's a subject matter expert, we'll connect you with them. And these are all out of the ordinary ones, like somewhere in the middle of the desert, somebody has a wireless signal, which may not be something that I answer every day, right? So having that point of contact, and from the company's side, regularly communicating is actually a good thing, in my opinion. What do you think, Sheila?
So I think, where you can be most successful, or more successful, I think, as an AR person, you or anyone else in AR, is keeping yourself aware of what's happening in the business and knowing who we are, right? And what skills we each have, and trying to see that match between who's the right person proactively to bring to this project, right? We're creating this new product, right? We've got a whole team working on it. They need some outside perspective. Who's the right person to try and suggest, let's have a call, let's use some inquiry hours, and just get on the phone and start the conversation.
That's true.
Amazing. Thank you both.
Very nice. So Delia, you're joining us from Paris, and Sheila from New England. Any final thoughts before we close?
Okay, so final thought on AI, okay? And I think as I look at some vendor programs, there is a move to bring in more AI analysts, right? We need AI analysts, right? And so I've been to a couple of meetings where there are, so-called AI analysts, and they very well may be, but they don't connect to this particular vertical piece, right? So I think as an AR person, you have to look for people who are at the intersection of AI and the product. I mean, the product expertise, the sort of vertical, like call center for me or mobility for somebody else, you need to have both of those things. We're coming to the point where, just like there won't be AI products, there won't be AI analysts. We all have to understand how AI is impacting the space that we cover.
That's a good point. Thank you. Delia?
I just want to finish with exactly what Sheila said earlier about analysts being influencers. I just want to highlight to that, because we need to understand how important your opinion is based on the expertise that you're building throughout the years, as you said, Sheila, on your side. And it's something that I really value. It's how you can change someone's perception if we don't know what we're doing. So I wanted to highlight that. I really appreciated that. It was such a good point. Thank you.
Very good. No, thank you both for being on the Talking Headless show, and your experience, your advice to others will be very valuable. This show will be published on YouTube. It'll be on LinkedIn Live. We also have other channels like Twitch and Facebook, and it also will be on my Twitter channel. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again in person, Sheila, and seeing you sometime, Delia, wherever our journey brings us together. So thanks, everyone.
So we have July 4th, and you have Bastille Day coming up. So happy
Yes,
Bastille Day.
that's true. Yeah, happy 250th anniversary. Thanks.
This has been a Players Productions Network digital broadcast.